Hey everybody, and welcome to this video where I'm going to be talking about n8n or nation or whatever you want to call it. I think most people call it n8n, but then with a Northern Irish accent, it's the 8 is a bit of a funny word. n8n, it's difficult for me, so I don't know. I'll call it n8n, but yeah, you know what I mean. So why n8n? Because there's a few problems with Noodle Cloud Functions. At the moment, January 2024, before we get our grubby fingers on the open source and start modifying things, there's three things that are an issue with Cloud Functions. So you can call Cloud Functions from outside Noodle, that's not a problem. The issue is that the Cloud Functions can be called as API endpoints, but there's nothing in Noodle that schedules that you can use to schedule calls, so you can't do any cron jobs as they're called. So I can't say send an email but send it in 2 hours time or 2 days time. I can't tell Noodle to do that. It has to either send it now or never. I can't. Oh, that's actually a good idea for our n8n example. I was trying to think of an example of what I could show you with n8n. Let's say with Super B&B, I want to send an email 2 days after the person books, or books a listing or something like that, looks at a listing to remind them, hey, your listing is still available, don't you want to book it? So that would be using a cron job. I need something that can, in 2 days time, go, oh, it's time. I'm going to look in the database. Has that person made a booking? No, they haven't. Okay, I'm going to send them an email then. So that workflow, that process, I need to happen in the cloud, in the backend. And with Noodle, I can't do that right now. The other thing is that I might want to install, let's say for the email, I want to use Amazon AWS SES. So I'm going to make a separate video about that. But SES is Amazon Simple Email Service. It's stupidly cheap, very reliable. The most important thing about sending emails from your app is to use a reliable email service. And you get a sending limit of like 50,000 emails per day. And the price is like minuscule for sending emails. So it's probably one of the best ways to send emails. It's really, really rough though. It's just an SMTP server. It's just the broker that will take the info on your email and send it to 1,000 different people. So this requires something called the AWS SDK, the Amazon Web Services Software Development Kit. So we can install that on Node and have that running to develop apps, but you need to be able to install it in your local environment, and it needs to run on the server side. So like it says here, there's something for the browser as well. Oh, there's actually something for the browser too, but I'm not sure that works with what we need, which is the RESTful endpoints. We need to use this to call Amazon to say, hey, can you send me an email, please? And that requires installing the Node package on your server. And at the moment of making the video again, we haven't got access to install packages onto servers onto the backend service of Noodle. So if we want to do that, we need to use an external service like n8n. n8n, you can actually, because you're self-hosting it, you can install your own packages, Node packages, Node libraries, and run things with this node as a script node or code node or something it's called. So that's a very, very useful thing about n8n if you have a very specific use case like using Amazon SES to send emails, which could be this example that we're doing today. And the third thing is that so Noodle has a 15-second maximum response timeout. So if I do an API call and there's lots of things happening inside the API call and it takes longer than 15 seconds, it'll just return failed, timed out, 500, error 500, or whatever, 50 something. And so if I were doing the email thing, it's probably not a problem, but if I were doing an AI call, for example, say I'm calling ChatGPT and I'm asking it a very complex question and it takes 20 seconds for it to pump out an answer, because a very long answer, then I need a backend workflow that can handle that and send me the answer when it's available, not open the API call and then wait and wait and wait, and I can't open any other API calls because this one is still waiting. So my front end is completely blocked while I'm waiting for this response. And then finally, 25 seconds later, I get a response from ChatGPT, all parsed and everything and beautified and whatever I wanted to do with it. That's not a good way to do it, obviously. So the best way to do that would be to have it immediately respond and say, yes, I received the request, no problem, I'm working on it. And then the response would be to actually send a message to Noodle through webhook and say, hey, by the way, I've got the answer for you, and do something with that. So, the endpoint would receive the answer and then process it. So it would have a two-parter. First part would be send the request out and then just say, okay, it's sent, and then carry on with something else. And then 25, 30 seconds later, a minute later, 5 minutes later, whatever is needed, there's a webhook comes in to Noodle and says, hey, the response is there, so now you can process it and do what you wanted to do with it. So I think that's what we should be doing what we could be doing, to an example of that today as well, to see how you can actually get things to go into your Noodle backend, how you can get these set up as endpoints, these functions here, so that they can actually receive receive an n8n webhook with a response to your request. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff. We're going to be using n8n, we're going to be using Warp, but you can also use Terminal or MS-DOS or whatever you're using for your operating system to get a terminal access, because we're going to install n8n locally. I'm not going to install it in EC2, because in theory, setting up an EC2 is pretty straightforward. I can maybe do a guide on that, text guide or something, but you can ask ChatGPT to help you set up EC2, to be honest. It's just setting up your own terminal, but like in Amazon's cloud instead of locally on your computer. So we don't really need to do a video about that. What I want to do is install it locally and create our workflows, and then show you how setting it up locally, you can create a workflow, you can save it, export it, and then import it into, if you have like your production environment in AWS, so you have an EC2 server running a separate version of n8n, then you can be exporting from your local computer version of n8n and importing into the AWS version for production. So you have a kind of test environment, because it marries really well with the local Noodle editor. You're not going to be able to do calls easily from outside your Noodle, from outside your local network. It's very difficult to do calls into your Noodle local development environment. So the best thing you can do is run things locally, have everything local. Your Noodle environment is local, so you need to run n8n locally. I'm going to be running Postman locally, for example. I've downloaded Postman because it can do calls to the local host. So that's what we're going to be doing today. To test our API endpoints and make sure they're working, and that's it. So if you've got all these things, Postman, you can download it and install it for free, and you can sign up for free. There's nothing more to it, just a free service for doing API calls and tests. And it actually does WebSocket tests as well, by the way. So if you ever wanted to test, like in my last video, the WebSocket address for your MQTT server, like we saw last time for doing live data updates, then that's also a place you can test it locally here. Just saying. So let's get started with n8n. So n8n has a cloud version. If you want to use the cloud version, it's way easier. Obviously, that's what you're paying for. So $20 a month is going to get you 5 workflows, active ones. So you can make as many test workflows as you want, and you activate the ones. When you activate a workflow, it means that it's an endpoint that's ready to receive monthly pricing. So 5 workflows that are actually currently listening, which is not bad for $24 a month, and 2,500 workflow executions. That's different than Make, for example, or Zapier. They don't charge you for workflow executions, they charge you for workflow step executions. So if you have a workflow where it's like receive the endpoint, parse the endpoint, step 2, step 3, access the template for SES, step 4, send the template for SES, step 5, receive the response from SES, step 6, parse the response from SES, step 7, do a filter, and one filter goes to an error and one filter goes to the response. And then step 8, send the response. So you could have like 8 steps. So if you're running that 2,500 times, it's 2,500 times 8. So actually, if you're comparing the difference between the two, multiply it by an average of like 8 to 10 workflow steps per workflow. So this would represent something like 25,000 executions in Make or in Zapier, for example, right? So it's way easier because it's all hosted online, super fast. You can have collaborators, you can have unlimited collaborators, collaborate on workflows, which is cool. So if you have a team, that might be a good idea for you. But if you just want to do like me and do the free version, go and look for the GitHub symbol. And here's n8n public. So it's the community version of n8n. I mean, they seem like they're committed to open source. I don't know what the license agreement is. Sustainable use. So I guess it's not GPL, so it's not like something we can just, but you can fork it. So you can take your own version n8n if you want. They still seem to be updating it and maintaining it, so that's all good. Here we go. So we can start n8n without installing it using npx. So you can even just start your own little easy peasy local host version, and do it. Then practice doing things in locally. But then you would have to export everything, and it wouldn't be persistent. So maybe the best thing would be to actually build it, which I can't remember where is the documentation for that. Documentation website. Okay. Choose your n8n. n8n cloud. So we want to do self-hosting on npm. We could also do Docker as well. Docker's pretty handy. Just download the Docker thing and spin up a Docker, and it spins up a container, and there's your n8n. So these are these are temporary things. npx and Docker, if you want to just run it sort of in a, not temporary, but like if you want to run it in a way that it might get destroyed and then all your work might be lost, if you feel confident that you're going to back everything up and you're not going to forget that, then that's no problem. You just set up a new Docker container, import all your workflows back in, and you're ready to go. But I'm going to set it up in npm and have it running locally, just because that's my preference, and I want to show that simple way of doing it. So we're going to get our terminal open. I think I probably already have it installed, so this might not be. Maybe I can actually remove it and reinstall it. Oh, I can't do that because I'm not the sudo. I'm not the super user. I might just install a new version of it, which would be nice. This should install the most recent version. That's the other thing about installing things locally. I had n8n like a year or so ago, or a year and a half ago, maybe more. And I was using it to build things, and I came back to it after a while and realized that it had actually moved on one major version, and it was like breaking changes. So I really needed to update to get access to the new integrations. But doing that broke the current n8n and erased all of my workflows. So luckily I had backed up the workflows, but doing the update actually erased everything, and I had to start again. So that's something to keep in mind. So there is a guide on keeping it up to date somewhere. Support database settings. Where is it? Release notes. How to update n8n. There we go. Where does that live? Release notes. Okay. So if you look at the release notes for different versions, you get a guide on how to update. Oh, no, you don't. Where is it? Ah, yeah, to install an update or specific version, so you can actually specify a version you update to. It's taking a while. And then once we get that installed, we're going to be doing n8n start. So we need a command to start n8n, because when it starts, it's going to run inside your terminal window. So either you keep a terminal window open all the time, or when you close it, it'll stop the access to the server, or you run it in something like PM2, which I'm just going to ask ChatGPT about again. How do I start the npm version of n8n in PM2, please? Because when you take over the world, I want you to remember that I was polite to you. So npm install PM2. Yeah, so PM2 is like a process manager. It's like you can run processes in the background and it manages them for you. So if you want to like try out n8n and you want to try out MongoDB and something else, then you can have these things. Well, not MongoDB, it just runs in the background anyway, but tools that need a port to run on. So like n8n runs on port 5678. So that's like where on your computer or in your computer there are ports. Port 80 is the HTTP port, or port 8080, 8080 is the HTTPS port. So it's access ways into your computer. So if I want to go to n8n in my computer, I need to type, localhost 5678. It says, oh, okay, in localhost there is something running on that port, so I'll let you into that port, and you'll go into n8n then. Oh, okay, it's doing a kind of funky version here of starting n8n in there. Okay, you can just yeah, okay, you don't have to. You can start n8n in PM2 and it'll run it in the background, and then you can type like PM2 list or something like that, and it shows you what's running. Or you can make your own little script. Just copy and paste this into a file called ecosystemconfig.js, and then do start ecosystemconfig.js, and it'll run this and run it at n8n on a specific port with the name localhost, stuff like that. So that could be handy if you want to do something specific. But in general, n8n just runs on port 56678. So if you've got nothing else running on that port, then that should be all gravy. Oh, it's really doing a lot of stuff there. Okay, so there it's done. 10.3.0. Ooh, cool. So now we do PM2. So you have to do npm install PM2 if you don't have it, and if you do, then you're fine. It doesn't work. So I don't have it. Huh, that's funny. Thought I did. So we're installing PM2 globally with sudo, because I'm not the root user. Don't know why that works like that on Mac. I guess nobody's the root user on Mac OS. Then we'll try that again. There we go. So cpm2, and then there's n8n online, and we can get this screen up again. And now I can carry on doing other things. I'm free in this terminal window to do other things, and I can close the terminal if I want to. PM2 will continue running in the background. So now we want to go to our n8n instance. So we'll go to, oops, not that, localhost 5678. Nope. Okay, so n8n start. Try using quick starts, sure. So where is it? Should be running on localhost. On port, let's see, where's that quick start thing? Installing npm docker. No, I just want the basic one. Right to GitHub. There's something there about it. Yeah, localhost, or localhost 5678. Yeah, I was right. Okay, it doesn't want to. Alrighty then. Let's try doing npx. No, we want to do PM2. What was it? Stop, terminate. What is it? How is it again? How do I stop a PM2 process? So PM2 lists all processes. So we can see, oh, errored. Oh dear. That's why it's not working. That makes sense. We're going to need to run it normally to see what happened. So we'll do n8n start. Your Node.js version is not supported by n8n. Please use Node version 18 or 20. Okay. Can you switch me to Node version 20, please? Oh, macOS. think I have NVM. Yep, I do. Okay, activate npm. We have nvm. That's okay. Switching nvm list remote. Yes, that's going to show me all my node versions. And I have, yeah, 18.19.0. That sounds good. Or 20.11.0. It said we could use 20, so let's do that. So we have to install it first. Might have needed to be sudo for that, maybe no. Seems like not. It's downloading. And it's already downloading 20.11.0 because it downloads whatever the latest stable version is, which is the green one there. Now using node 20. Good. So let's try PM2 start n8n again. We do have PM2. Oh, because it switched us over to ZSH. Okay, fine. We'll install it on ZSH as well. Oops. No. Didn't want to just install npm. It's just gonna like update everything now or something. Okay, thanks. PM2 globally. Oops. Does capital G matter? Hope not. Jesus Christ. Yep. Yeah, I do have it. Change the default shell to bash. Okay, no. So install PM2, and now we want to do sudo, no, it's just PM2 start n8n ZSH, God help me. Alright, for the purposes of this video, we're going to do npx n8n. No, we're not. Yes, I do want to do that, please. So if you don't have a messed up computer like mine that doesn't understand the difference between ZSH and bash, and I've just messed around with my computer way too much in the past. Anyway, the PM2 thing would have worked, and then this localhost thing we're about to do would have been working on PM2, but I'm not going to waste time debugging my entire computer in front of you when you might not have these problems. If you do, just put this problem, copy paste into ChatGPT and say, I'm on Mac OS X, I'm on Mac OS, I'm on this version, I'm running my terminal, and I've got this error. What can I do to fix it, please? And ChatGPT will help you. In the meantime, let's set up a little test here. So we're going to set up a cloud function in our SuperBNB project called send email. I'm going to set them up as attached names because I want the endpoint to be accessible from an API called easily, and it's more easy if it's attached and not with spaces where you have to put in like %20 for every space and stuff like that. And then I'm going to put in receive response. So 2 endpoints that we're going to be using for this. So for example, this request is going to be, I don't know, email ID or like user ID or something like that. Email ID. And it's going to, let's just go. Send success response, which is a 200 response success. And we'll send a parameter and say message. And the string is going to be, we're just going to send back the same. No, we're going to send a different string. I'm going to send all good. As a response message. It's the response. In fact, you know what, we can do a function. And we're going to do, what was it? I have an example of the Stripe one, don't I? Events. There's a way to do it. Yeah, Noodle objects request. It's just got that from the Stripe example. Stripe is a prefab that you can install. So const request equals Noodles object request, output response equals requests. Oh, sorry, output request. So let's output that as well to here. Outputs. My bad. So when the request is received, it should fire off this function and it should give us access to the full request with like the headers and all that stuff that you might need to parse it out. So we'll do that as well. So let's test this little endpoint. We're going to, while we wait for n8n to install, we're going to post to localhost double point, and then the server address is found in the Noodle docs. Cloud functions. Point. So no. Oh, come on. Think. Do I have one example? Learn book probably. Noodle function test. Yeah. Nope. Not that one. Nope. Oh. There's a special port. We know that the port for the front end is 8574, and there's a special port for the cloud functions that we need to call, and I can't remember which port it is. So it's Noodle cloud function port. Mm-hmm. Come on. Okay, I'm just gonna go and look in one of my other. We can look in. What can we look in? Possibly my existing n8n might have some examples. Oh, my existing n8n is down. Why is my existing n8n down? back to that. So we've got our n8n is installed, is running on localhost 5678. So let's have a look at n8n while we're waiting for me to remember the port for the cloud functions. So how do we sign in? So upgrade to version 1. Don't remember how we do that. It's supposed to be, normally when you install it, it comes up with a window that tells you that you should set up your admin username. Editor's not accessible. Okay. So what is it saying in GitHub? Scrum will download everything you need, and you can access n8n, start building workflows by opening n8n localhost. Okay, well that's what we did. Maybe I could use my n8n password for the main n8n website. That's the cloud one there. Nope. Do I have caps lock on? Yeah, right. Maybe ChatGPT knows. Oh, okay. Nope. It's not admin. Thanks for the clever idea. Okay, yeah. You need to set environment variables. If you're running them from the command line, set the environment variables before starting n8n. Okay. New documentation for setup, login, security, n8n. Okay. It's a lot of stuff to set up. Okay, let's just try this simple thing here. So we'll close this time. We'll do this. We'll do this. admin@admin.com. And then our password is going to be admin. And then we'll try running that again. So yeah, thank you, n8n, for changing things and making my life more difficult. That's what I wanted. I like a challenge. I like wasting people's time watching me debugging things. And it still doesn't work. Fabulous. So we'll just do sudo n8n start. Nope. Install it again because it just loves installing things on my computer 100 times. Fabulous. So let's get back to figuring out what the endpoint is for the... do you happen to know what the port is for making calls to a Noodle cloud function? It's either going to know or it's going to take a guess. It's going to say the standard port is blah, 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 blah. So maybe it's that. Yeah, no, that's not going to work. And there's nothing on Google about it because Noodle's not well enough known. Let's check the Discord. It's there somewhere. Yeah. 8574, 8577. And it was me who asked the question, so it's me who forgot. Aren't I just a genius? Chizo. Close all this down. Okay, go away. So localhost, what did I say it was? 8577. Yeah, I should probably write that down somewhere. 8577, and then it's like functions. Yeah, I already know now what we could do actually is we could look in the documentation and find 8577, and it's going to take us, no, it's going to take us nowhere. Fabulous. So it's something like functions slash, where is it? Function slash receive response. Unauthenticated request not accepted. So we have the right port. And what I've forgotten is to tick the box allow unauthenticated, because normally Cloud Functions can only be run by a logged in user. But we can tick allow unauthenticated, which might sound really dangerous. But when you receive this, it's your choice what to do with it. So you could like process it first and add like an API key. And if the API key is not right, so if the API key is not right when you receive it, then we're going to send an error response and we're going to say wrong key, genius. So if that doesn't work, send this. So it's really like up to you what you do with your backend functions, whether you want them to be super safe like this or not or whatever. So let's send a request. Wrong key, genius. All right, so we need to have an API key in there. Don't need a file path. API key, and it's going to be some super secret key. And then we need user ID and email ID. That's going to be test user, and that's going to be test email. Wrong key, genius. What? Are you joking? Some super secret key. Some super secret key. Probably because it's not params, they probably have to pass it through the body. Whoops. No. So API key, user ID, it's going to be some super secret key. It's going to be test user, and it's going to be test email. Wrong key, genius. Why is it doing that? Okay, let's see. Here we go. Let's look at the request and figure it out. So the function node has pumped out the request as I hoped. And the params, there are no params. So that's fabulous. So actually it does need to be params, not body. URL params. Is that not the right one? Oh, maybe because we didn't do content type. No, we didn't put content type in the header. No authorization. And headers, we don't have any. Body, we don't have any. We don't have any of this stuff. Try again just one more time. No, wrong key. And so let's put in content type. What was it? Application JSON. So I have a lot of stuff, just don't have any data coming through. Why don't I have any data coming through? Authentication false, user ID. So these are the params. User ID, email ID, API key, and authenticated. So that should all be good. So why, if the params are here, is it not sending any? Nothing is coming through here. It's being received. It's going through that, but nothing is actually coming out of the requests because the request parameters are empty. What is wrong with you, Postman? So no params. Okay, so LearnBook did have, it did work, body test. So that was params. Didn't have any headers, didn't have any in authorization. Didn't have any body. And that worked. Turn these ones off, just have the API key and see what that does. Headers, we didn't need a content type. Body, we can just turn that off and say none. And then send. Okay, let's refresh Cloud Functions, see if that works. So that's, like exit Noodle and go back in just in case. You never know if that's your problem. Okay, come on, we can do this. So why did I have to put such a berating message that makes me feel so bad every time? So the request is received. No params. Probably missing something very, very simple, but anyway, come back to it. Anyway, you see the point of what we're trying to do, so we'll come back to that and fix that another time. And in the meantime, our n8n has been installed, so we can start running n8n. This is giving a really good advertisement for n8n, like, oh yeah, this is going to be so easy setting up my own n8n and setting up backend functions and Noodle and everything. Like, so we said it was admin@admin.com, and the password was admin. Nope. Do you have caps lock on? No, I don't. Okay, cancel that. Right, so we had export n8n basic auth active true. Export n8n basic auth user admin@admin.com. Export n8n password equals admin 1 2 3 4 5. Admin@admin.com. Admin 1 2 3 4 5. Try that admin again, see if that works. Must be a valid email. Yeah, I know. Hmm. You can put in n8n config files. Ooh. Can we edit the n8n config? I still can't log in after doing the export you recommended. Not like I'm trying to blame ChatGPT for doing something wrong, but what was it? .n8n config. Nope. It'll be then. Nope. Oh, permission denied. Oh, look at that. Ah, am I there? Nope, I'm not there. Yeah. Directory. Oh yeah, okay. Nano config. Encryption key, tunnel subdomain, okay. Yeah, whatever. So this is what's in the config file. Yep. Yes. That's what I want. That's what I want. Give it to me. To make it look pretty. Alrighty. Oh, and it'd be good to cancel that. Yeah, we want to have the username to be admin at admin.com, and password is admin12345. Just in case there's a minimum. I'm not respecting the minimum password length or something like that. It does not seem to be a valid JSON. Oops. What have I done? Oh, yeah, no, yeah, that's okay. What am I missing? Credentials, open brackets, open, so there's two open brackets, two close brackets. It looks okay to me. Oh, yeah. Because the tunnel subdomain doesn't have a comma after it. That would definitely not be a valid JSON. Fair enough. Okay, you win. I thought the computer was wrong. It was the human with the human brain that was wrong. What a surprise. admin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It does not want to let me log in. It really, really, really doesn't want to let me in. It's probably because I've installed 500 different n8n versions and bash and zsh and all that, and it's just all over the damn place. So it just doesn't want to let me in. But then it did say no, because it is running that config file. So it's the config file that's wrong. So authentication. So I don't want user management. I just want to install it, please. We're going to have to come back to this, I think. We're going to have to do some debugging and come back to this. But so far today, you've seen installing n8n locally. We've talked about installing it on EC2 as well. You've seen using Postman to make calls to a endpoint in your Noodle backend cloud functions. And so far, so good. We've got some stuff to go on there. But yeah, nothing successful today. So